The Blackwood House, Real Ghost Chronicles, original story. They say the Blackwood House was built on cursed land. Located in the backwoods of North Carolina, deep within the Appalachian Mountains, the house has stood for over a century, its blackened timber and sagging roof hiding secrets that have been whispered about for generations. The locals speak of it in hushed tones, crossing themselves when they do. There's something unnatural about it, they say. A shadow that clings to the walls, a coldness that lingers in the air, and a family whose bloodline was marked from the very start. The Blackwoods were never meant to prosper, and they didn't, not in the way that other families did. Every one of them met a tragic end, and some say it wasn't an accident. Some say they were claimed by something far older than death. In 1911, Thomas Blackwood, a successful lumber baron, moved his wife, Helen, and their 2 children, Alice and Jacob, to the house. They had lived in Charleston for years, but Thomas wanted to escape the noise of the city to build a legacy in the wilderness. The house was isolated, tucked away in the forest, miles from the nearest neighbor. It seemed like the perfect place to raise a family, but from the moment they set foot inside, something felt off. The air was thick and damp, and the house seemed to groan under its own weight. The first night they spent there, Helen woke in the middle of the night to the sound of scratching at the windows. When she pulled back the curtains, there was nothing, just the black expanse of trees. But when she turned back around, she could have sworn she saw something moving in the shadows, something large, with glowing eyes. Days turned into weeks, and the scratching didn't stop. It grew louder, more persistent. Thomas tried to dismiss it, calling it the sounds of the wind or perhaps an animal. But Helen couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them, something that didn't belong. One evening, after a particularly violent storm, the family found something horrifying. Jacob had gone missing, his room left undisturbed, but there was a trail of muddy footprints leading to the basement. When they opened the door, they found the walls covered in strange symbols, like something had clawed them into the wood. And in the center of the room, Jacob's body lay cold and twisted, his eyes wide open in eternal terror. He had been dead for hours, yet there was no sign of injury. The family never spoke of it again, but from that day on, the Blackwood House seemed to change. Years passed, and the house fell into disrepair. It wasn't long before the rest of the family began to unravel. Helen, stricken with grief, took to wandering the house at night, her eyes bloodshot from sleeplessness, murmuring to herself in a language no one could understand. Alice, the only surviving child, began having nightmares, dreams of a figure standing at the foot of her bed, its face covered by a black veil, its mouth moving, though no sound came. She would wake up in a cold sweat, her heart racing, but the figure would always be gone. But it wasn't just Alice who was haunted. Thomas, once a strong and proud man, grew gaunt and pale. He would sit by the fireplace for hours, staring into the flames, muttering about debts he could never pay, as if something inside the house was calling to him. It was as if the house itself was feeding on their misery, drawing them deeper into its grip. By 1923, the Blackwood family had disappeared. Thomas was found dead in the woods, his body ripped apart, as if something had torn into him with claws. Alice was found in the basement, her hands cut to the bone from trying to claw her way through the walls. Her eyes were missing, and her mouth was twisted in a grotesque scream. Helen's body was never found, but rumors spread that she had been seen walking through the woods, her eyes wide and unblinking, calling out for someone, though no one ever dared approach her. The Blackwood house was abandoned, its dark secrets locked behind the decaying walls. But even in its abandonment, the house never truly left. The town nearby reported strange happenings, people disappearing in the woods, animals found mutilated, and strange lights flickering in the windows of the house at night. They say the land is cursed, but it's more than that. It's something ancient, something that was never meant to be disturbed. And the Blackwood house, it's just the beginning. In the years that followed, the house became a place of legend, a place that no one dared to visit. It was a haven for the lost, the curious, and the foolish. Some say they still hear the cries of Alice, the scratching on the windows, and the eerie whispers in the night. They say the house has a way of drawing people in, of claiming them as its own. It waits patiently for the next soul to wander too close. And when they do, it feeds. No one has entered the Blackwood house in over 50 years, but that hasn't stopped the rumors. They say the land has been cursed for centuries, a place where the dead never rest and the living are never free. And if you're ever driving down that road, late at night, when the fog rolls in and the trees look like silent giants, you might hear the scratching too, just like Helen did. And if you listen closely, you'll hear the whispers calling you home.